Investigators at the Special Organized Crime Unit are still at work putting together the puzzle of the multi-billion-dollar question. How did the public servant who earned less than $900,000 monthly been able to accumulate billions of dollars in liquid cash, more than 5 properties and 5 business enterprises? Shariff now, although under investigation, spoke to the press through a source alleging that he was sent on leave as a cover-up because he had begun unearthing massive corruption, including the alleged misuse of international donor funds. The source related that Shariff had reported his alleged findings to Minister of State Joseph Harmon, and he believes that the Ministry of the Presidency is covering up the alleged fraud. Minister Harmon was Wednesday morning questioned about this new development involving the Guyanese billionaire and frowned on the allegation.
I can categorically state that Mr. Shariff never reported to me any matter involving any sums of money that were the subject of a fraud investigation. In any event, if that were so, then it is his responsibility. Even if he had informed me, it is his responsibility as the accounting officer of the ministry to report that matter to the police, so that there can be no question that Mr. Shariff was sent off because he was uncovering fraud.
Investigators are now learning that Mr. Shariff had invested billions of dollars in shares at a few thriving establishments. Police files show that Shariff and his reputed wife acquired thousands of shares at Banks DIH, Republic Bank, and the Guyana Bank for Trade and Industry. The Guyanese billionaire allegedly owns more than 12 bank accounts with billions of dollars.
The sums seem very large. The accumulation of properties seems very, very high for a public servant. But beyond that, I would not wish to comment, lest it is felt that the course of the investigation would have been tampered with in some way. But I would just leave it, let the police do their work, and at the appropriate time, what actions they need to take, they will take, and I'll be advised accordingly.
Former President Donald Ramatar came to the defense of Mr. Shariff this week, saying that he saw no conflict of interest in Mr. Shariff working at the office of the president as permanent secretary and running a business simultaneously, since nothing in his contract with government prohibited it. Minister Harmon was asked to respond to this.
A permanent secretary in the government, not only in the Ministry of the Presidency, but a permanent secretary in the government is required to devote all of his time to the work as a permanent secretary. And therefore, there is no question of permanent secretaries being engaged in private pursuits. In other words, what is called moonlighting. That is definitely not in the contemplation of the contracts which those permanent secretaries have. And so for anyone, irrespective of what office they held, to basically say that there is no conflict of interest, I would take issue with a statement like that, because if what is coming out in the media, if half of it is true, then clearly there would have been a conflict of interest.
Harmon was questioned as to why the government kept Mr. Shariff on the job, even though they had known that he was an executive member of the PPP and that the hierarchy of the last administration might have been protecting the Guyanese billionaire.
When we took office, it was clear that Mr. Shariff had been a member of the PYO organization. He was a very senior person in the PPP. And when we took office, in spite of all of that, we said that we were going to rely on his professionalism to conduct what he had to do. There was clearly an opportunity at that time for him to make a separation between his service to his party and service to the government. But we gave Mr. Shariff the benefit of the doubt and requested that he remains professional in the work that he was doing.
It was hinted that Mr. Omar Shariff will be hauled before the courts soon in what could very well be the biggest money laundering and tax evasion matter ever to hit Guyana. Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News.